Was I right or was I wrong? I'll talk about that on this segment of the Gig Geezer. If this is your first time checking out the Gig Geezer, returning visitor of the Gig Geezer, thanks for coming by. And if you would not mind, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. Well, I'm back here in the Geezer studio. In fact, I'll be back in the Geezer studio this coming Wednesday night, May 21st, 2025, as I'll be putting on my weekly live stream, I'm Speaking, which comes out at Wednesday evenings at 9 o'clock Eastern. This week's guest on I'm Speaking is Saint Mike 504. Saint Mike 504 is a delivery and transport professional, if you will. He works out of the Denver market. The 504 is because he's from the New Orleans area. That's right. He knows about the boudin. He knows about jambalaya. He knows about the crawfish. He knows about the gumbo. I know about gumbo because from the gumbo that I was raised on, you knew it was good if it made you sweat. Hey, I'll even bring the peach cobbler, both top and bottom crust, and also the lemonade for this coming Wednesday at 9 o'clock Eastern. So check out I'm Speaking, as my guest will be Saint Mike 504. Now, the question, was I right or was I wrong, is based on a recent experience that I had. This has occurred within the past month, in which I was approached about doing a dedicated route slash contract situation. It was supposed to last for 2 months, starting April 28th, going through the end of June. Well, I lasted all of one day. It wasn't because I fucked up. It was because they didn't want to pay me. Now, why do I say they didn't want to pay me? I mentioned coming in that I thought at least privately that is, and then what I mentioned in a segment of the Gig Geezer, in that the brand new bag that I was looking to secure would possibly be a situation in which it may be a slight pay cut. But one thing that I mentioned when it comes to doing dedicated route contract opportunities is that you always want to make sure that it's on par or better than what you're doing. And so with it being just a slight pay cut, and I'll get into the actual numbers, and that's the whole reason for this segment of the Gig Geezer. When I got into when I looked into the numbers, at least from the surface, I figured that I could make up for that missed income more than likely if I went out and did something on a Saturday. So let's look at the numbers. Now, I was approached with this opportunity delivering tires from a local warehouse, and it was to pay $500 a day. Now, I'm pretty sure with at least 95% of y'all, $500 a day using your box truck, delivering tires, you'd say, fuck yeah, where do I sign up? Well, I didn't say, fuck yeah, where do I sign up? But I said, yeah, I'll do it. That was my actual reaction. I'll do it. Yeah. Because I knew then that coming into the month of May, traditionally the Columbia market slows down because of the university finishing up for its academic year. And then based on what I experienced last year, I was kind of looking at hedging my bets. And so, yes, dedicated routes, contract situations do offer some type of stability, income stability, if it plays out the way it is supposed to. The reason why I say that is because income, the opportunities themselves don't always, they cannot play out in that they may not need you. They've got to, when you're in that type of situation, you're the extra help. The first priority are the actual staff, making sure that they're in a delivery and transport situation that they're rolling. So they got to make sure that there's volume for them to do their job. And so you get whatever's left. And I'll explain how that kind of how that played out as well. So $500 a day. Of course, I got to foot my own gas. I'm using my own box truck, and the Budgeted miles were 200 miles a day. Well, I found out that the run that I would be doing was going to a neighboring market. I say neighboring market, it's about an hour away, Augusta, Georgia. And so the trip from Columbia to Augusta is 80 miles just one way. So 160 miles. And you're going to tell me that a fucking route is going to be 40 miles? I don't think that's the way it played out. The actual number of miles that I drove the day that I did my route was 260 plus miles. And coming in, I told them that, hey, we need to adjust these numbers for the miles and the time. Well, I put in at the end of that one day that I did the adjustment. I showed them, I even sent them a screenshot of the actual miles driven, proving to them that, hey, this run is likely to go over what you budgeted. 45 minutes later, I get a text message telling me or informing me that that I would no longer be needed and that my route, actually it wasn't my route, it was I would be needed. I would be called upon on an as needed basis. So keep that in mind. So then let's look at the numbers. All right. The thing is, I'm not presenting this segment of the Gig Geezer in an armchair quarterback situation. I can only talk about what has transpired as compared to what was being presented to me. I hope that makes sense. In other words, I'm dealing with actual real numbers. Coming in, I try to make a comparison based on what I'd been trending at versus what I'm likely to make. And that's basically how you make your best decision. So in this particular case, I was looking at a potential earnings for the month of May of $11,000. That is if I were to work all 22 possible days. That's if I worked 22 possible days. However, the month of May has a holiday, and that is Memorial Day. It's coming up. So we're down to 21 days. And in my situation, come to find out so far this month, I would have had to take a day off from the route because of my having to do get tires put on my box truck, the left rear dually tires. So that would have been another day that I'd lost. So I'm looking at now, based on what has actually transpired, a potential of 20 days earned or potential of $10,000 earned. Again, if somebody was looking at the potential of making $10,000, they'd be saying, fuck yes, sign me up. But you gotta understand, this is the Gig Geezer, and $10,000 would have been a slight pay cut for me. That's right. Because so far this year, at least as of April, because that's a complete month, as of April of this year, I'd been averaging $11,400 a month. So even at the max, it would have been a trade-off, which would have been okay, because I also have suggested that if you consider a dedicated route contract situation, you always want something that's on par or better. So that's the other reason why I was looking at having them to reconsider the numbers, because I'm looking to cover as much. I'm looking out for myself. That's the bottom line. I'm looking out for myself. I know that they're looking out for themselves. They're looking at the money that's going out for this project, and they just simply couldn't afford me. And I'll show you why they say they couldn't afford me, based on another example that actually occurred. It was a subsequent example that actually occurred. So then we talk about then the potential numbers. There was a potential of $11,000 to be earned, but compared to what I've been doing, it would have just been a wash. It just would have been me doing something 5 days a week and still had the potential of earning money on Saturday. So then, I know that I've talked for about 10 minutes into this segment of the Gig Geezer. And by the way, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. So here where the numbers actually play out. Now, in one column, based on the $10,000 potential to be earned this month, I still would have to take out for gas. And we're talking about then, how many days did I have it picked out? Let's see. I had 12 so far through May 19, which is today, 2000, so far through today, Monday, May 19, 2025. If I would have done that route, I would have spent to this point $1,265 during the month of May for gas. Add an oil change that I actually did on the box truck last week. That was another $35. And then the $412 for tires. We're talking about costs that reach then 1677 plus 35. So about $1,700 in actual money outlay at a minimum that I would have spent to have done this route. Now, based on potential earnings, in which what I had to do was go back into my GridWise screen and do a little adding, more so adding and not subtracting. I would have earned potentially so far this month, had I done the route first full week of May, $2,907 the first week. The second week, $2,836, and then last week only $2,000 because I missed it. I would have missed a day last week Thursday because of the tires that need to be put onto the truck. Then you add $500 earned today, Monday, May 19, 2025. I would have earned more than likely to this point $8,243. A net, I would have had $6,531. My actual numbers, these are my actual numbers through May 19, 2025 so far this month. I earned week one so far $2,561. And by the way, this does not include another 1099/cash game earnings, and that's another $100 or so. $2,730. Last week, $3,348. And then today I earned $950 for a total of $9,589. Now, my actual gas expense this month, the reason why I gave $1,265, I would have presumed having to put in about $80 a day in gas to complete that route. My actual gas spent this month is $1,184. Still have to consider the tires and the oil change. So then that was about $1,700. So my net was my net earnings this month would have been $7,958. So $7,958 as compared to $6,531, that gets you about a $1,400 difference. That's right. So if you compare what I would have done had I stayed on the route versus what I've done so far this month, I'm ahead by $1,400. And based on that, they did me a big favor by telling me that they couldn't afford me. But again, you don't know. You can't look into the future. But looking back now, it looks like they did me a favor. And maybe I was right in terms of what I said, there's the advantage of a dedicated route. Contract opportunity is the stability of earnings. But when you're on your own and you don't have a dedicated route, you have your flexibility, because the day that I did tires, I still did a cash game opportunity. And the other thing is that you're not capped on your earnings. And as it turns out, I've fared pretty well so far. Now, here's the thing. I was approached to fill in for a couple of days, May 8th and May 9th. So that was last week, Thursday and Friday. When they approached me, they said, okay, this is the deal. I said, is it still $500 a day? They said, yeah. I said, no, we got to do this for $600 a day. That's right. I told them 600 a day. They said, I don't know about that, man. And so they countered that they would offer 525 a day. I said, if you do 575, I'll be there at 6 a.m. both Thursday and Friday. They said, well, we'll get back with you. And they came back and said, well, we apologize, man. Thanks for just allowing us to present the opportunity to you. But we can't afford you. We can't afford you. So even then, even if I were to go off of that, they offered $525 a day. That's $1,050 earned. Okay. My actual earnings between May 8th and May 9th was $1,020. Okay. And then if you were to consider expenses and all, which was, you assume $160 for gas. So that would have been a net of $890. My actual expenses for gas those 2 days was $147.25. My net earnings would have been $882.75. So we're talking about a net loss of $7.25. $7.25. Do you think I'm going to lose any sleep over $7.25? Do you think I'm going to lose any sleep over $30? So over the long haul, they did me a favor. But also, you may make the argument that maybe I was right for speaking up for myself when I approached them about, hey, you need to adjust for the extra miles, because I had a route that was the longest among the 4 routes that were being used. I had the longest route, and so it took the most time. I felt that they needed to reimburse me. They needed to compensate me properly. For the 1 day that I did it, they actually paid me $632.50. That's the reason why they didn't want me to come back, because if they were projecting $632, that's more than $100 than their best case scenario that they were looking at offering me. Okay. Whereas I've already had days in which I've made at least $632 or more. Hell, just today I mentioned I made $950. So, and then last week, Friday, $1,200 plus. I mean, yes, there's reason for me to really stick out my chest, pimp my walk, and grab my Johnson, but that's not the reason for doing this particular segment of the Gig Geezer. So hopefully you get something out of this. You have to make your best decision based on your numbers. You should have an idea what your numbers are when you consider doing a dedicated route contract situation. It's easy to jump at the numbers, and then when you jump at the numbers, you go out there, then all of a sudden you go back and start looking at your numbers. You're like, hey, wait a minute, they got over on me. So if you understand your numbers coming in, you can also command what you think are fair numbers, and then you don't get caught up in those situations. While I'm at it, my weekly live stream I'm speaking is this coming Wednesday, May 21st, 2025. My live streams appear at 9 o'clock Eastern. My guest this week will be Saint Mike 504. Saint Mike 504. He's from the Denver market, originally from New Orleans. Again, he's going to bring the boudin. He's going to bring the jambalaya, the crawfish, and the gumbo. I'll bring the peach cobbler with the top and bottom crust and the lemonade. And hopefully I'll see you for that damn conversation. And if you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. I'm Ed Wood Lane. As always, may your grind and may your hustle continue.